Hello, welcome to our channel. My name is Evangelist Aiden Lambert. Welcome. What an honor it is to have you with us today. I am here once again with a special guest, Evangelist Diego Clavijo, all the way from Louisiana, originally from Ecuador. Amazing friend of mine. We met at the Christ for All Nations School of Evangelism in Columbus, Ohio, last year in 2023. And since then, we've become pretty close friends, and we've done some stuff in ministry together, and we're just, we have the same heart, we beat the same frequency, and we bleed the same blood. So here we are. But real quick, today we are at episode 1 of our new series, Clearing the Clouds, talking about Christian misconceptions, questions, and also just things that maybe you heard in church growing up, and you've always wondered if they're true or false. But we're going to cover them in this series. So if you have any questions, misconceptions, maybe controversial topics that you want us to cover, please drop them in the comments box below. I review every single one of them, and I'd love to cover them on our channel. Before we jump into the content though, if you like this video at any point, please feel free to go down and hit the like and subscribe button. That would really help support us quite a bit. And if you'd like to support us even further than that, you can go to our website. Link is in the description box below. It's www.lambertministries.org, and you can find the donate option on the home screen there. We would love for you to support us, and we thank you so much for your faithfulness and support. If you would like to support us and get something in return, you can go to our shop page on our website. We have merch there at good prices, very comfortable clothing, nice designs, just so that you can spread the gospel with your apparel. So yes, thank you so much for joining us, and let's get right into it. Okay, so today's topic that we're going to be covering is the question, where does sin start? Diego, you actually sent me this one. There was a video of, it was Michael Todd, right?
Yes.
So it was Michael Todd who was saying you could go ahead and share what the video was entailing, if you could.
Okay. Not trying to diss on Michael Todd. I don't know him, so I just watched it. Me and my brother watched this video. I don't remember how long ago, but we watched it, and as we were watching it, we were like, man, that does not sound right. He was talking about you could leave. You could think about leaving your family. You can think about cheating on your wife. You can think and have all these fantasies as long as you don't do it. You can think about your coworkers in a way that you probably shouldn't, but as long as you're just thinking about it and not doing something, it's okay. So he was saying sin starts with the action of doing something.
Looking at the Bible, we can't prove that. We can't prove that it's the action's the first point.
I think I agree with you. I do. Obviously, there has to be somebody that can make an argument for it. If somebody's preaching about it, maybe somebody can say, yes, sin is an action, not a thought. Now, I don't believe that. I believe that dwelling on something is really, especially something bad like that, it is part of the sin, and it is a sin. I don't really like categorizing things as this is a sin, this is not a sin, this is a sin, this is not a sin. Because I feel like we're trying to figure something out that is not really important. As I said this statement the other day, and I stand by it. I don't think that whenever I get to heaven, Jesus is going to be like, hey, you figured it out. You figured all the sins. You figured the right theology. You figured everything. Good job. I think it's more going to be like, well done, good and faithful servant. Or my way of seeing it, and where I was thinking about what I was going to tell you today is I wanted to tell you like a little very, very, very short story of what I think it is going to be when you get to heaven, just so people don't get caught up in the whole let's define sin. So whenever a few years ago I went back to Ecuador for the first time after almost 5 years. I hadn't seen my dad and I hadn't seen my sisters in almost 5 years. My dad couldn't pick me up at the airport, so I had to take a taxi. The taxi couldn't take me completely to my dad's house because you can't get there in a car, so I had to get off the taxi. And I was about, I would say, 700 feet from where he was. He was waiting at the door the whole time. From away from the airport to the house, he was waiting at the door. And when he saw me get out of the taxi, Mind you, I'm 23 years old. He runs to me, he hugs my neck, and he starts kissing my cheek. And he cries and cries and cries. He hasn't seen me in a long time, and I'm like, that I'm 20 something. I don't want you kissing on me like that. But, anyways, that is my picture of what going to heaven is going to look like. I don't think that God is going to be there trying to tell you, hey, you did right for what you figure out with sin and stuff. I think it's going to be more of a, I haven't seen you here in so long. You're finally home. So that's why I don't want people to like get so stuck into sin. Now we're gonna talk about this topic because I do think it's important, but don't get stuck into like categorizing what is sin and what is not, because I don't believe it's about that. It's just about making Him proud by representing Him and loving others.
Yeah, there's two things I want to definitely highlight before we really talk about this, which is number one, we are not talking about this topic to bash, excuse me, to bash or put down any minister who's taught this doctrine. This
Mm.
series is clearly for clearing up confusion. It's not a heretic hunter series. It's not for bashing. I believe, and this is my strong belief, and if it offends somebody, oh well, get over it. I strongly believe that if your ministry is based on attacking other ministries, you
Mhm.
cannot call yourself a minister.
No.
Last I checked, Jesus and the rabbis were very different.
Mhm.
Jesus did things very different than the rabbis, but never once did he ever attack them. He defended the truth that God sent him to speak, defended, but never attacked. And I'm not
Yes.
here to attack someone. I'm here to purely say, no, we cannot make a fool out of this Bible. We can't
Yes.
misinterpret this Bible. We have to defend this Bible. This is the Word of God. And the second thing I want to mention, we're not giving you a license to sin. We're not here to condemn you if you've done this, if you've sinned in this manner. We're purely trying to help you because as Christians, our goal should be to abstain purity. We should be trying to be as pure and righteous as possible. And maybe you did not know, keep yourself pure. We're here to teach on the doctrine, not to destroy those that are teaching it, and not to condemn those that are listening. So I hope that clears up some of the error for those that are watching. And that's the heart of this series. That's the heart of this series.
Right? And that's good. That's good. Let's get started.
So Diego, where does sin start?
Okay, for me, sin starts with a thought because every action that you commit, everything that you do, uh, it comes with a. You have to think about it. If you want to grab something, you got to think about grabbing something. If you want to do anything, go play a sport, you have to think about it. So I believe that is the root of something. Now, there is a fine line between sinning with a thought and not, because sometimes, yes, you do get intrusive thoughts that really don't come from somewhere that you're dwelling on something.
Yeah,
Um, I believe that, for example, so something small like throwing trash that's at the window of your car. Sometimes you can think about it as long as you don't do it, then you really commit a crime now. Uh, Stuff like that. I think that if you can say, get behind me, Satan, with a thought that comes into your head that you're really not dwelling onto, I don't think that's a sin. I don't think that you're committing anything bad. Sometimes you can control it.
yeah, I
Now,
agree with that. I have that written in my notes as well.
awesome. Awesome. But not dwelling on something like that. Like, for example, the video that we just talked about. Dwelling on the fantasy of having an affair with somebody. That fills your heart with lust.
Yeah,
Um, or if we actually want to get a little bit more real than that, I can go to somebody and say, a drug addict, for example, and say, you dwelling on the idea of doing more heroin is not bad for you. Because eventually, you dwelling on something like that is going to make you do it. The more you think about it, the more you're going to want to do it, the more you're going to figure out a way to do it, and the more you're actually going to actually do it.
yeah. So what I have written in my notes is, I said that sin starts in the heart. I was looking at Matthew. If you have your Bible and you're watching, you could go ahead and turn here with me, because actually I do have quite a decent amount of scripture. me go ahead and flip through mine real quick and get there. Okay, we found it. It's Matthew 12, verse 34 and 35. It says, "Brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasures brings forth evil things." As Jesus says in verse 36, I love this one. "But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment." So, my point of pulling up that scripture is your mouth is only going to show the fruit of your heart stance. And if your heart is a dead garden of weeds, that's what's going to show out of your mouth. I think Jesus is blatantly telling us you keep your heart right and in the right stance.
Yes, yes, and I agree. He's also telling him, how can you, being evil, do good things or speak good things? So sometimes what we try to make things like, well, I'm only thinking about it. He's saying, out of the evil of your heart, out of the things that are in your mind, that's what's going to come out. That's what your actions are going to reflect. And what I was trying to think about this is also, when he says speak good things, I also thought of the idea of doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. Um,
Yeah.
so you could be going, I don't know, to a shelter to try to give food to people that need it, and volunteering to do that. But you could be doing that because the pretty girl that works there, you want to talk to her. Is that really like something that you're doing that is actually good, or is that
Sin by
coming from
intention.
lust?
Or just God cares about your intention. Not even just
Yes,
sin. God cares about your intention.
yes, yes. I agree. And I think you were going to talk about the other verse, Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew 5, 21 and 22. This is just to emphasize what it means by like beginning in the heart. I actually have it highlighted. That's from a long time ago. It says in verse 21, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment.' But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, 'Raka,' shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, 'You fool,' shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar, and then remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift, therefore, before heart." So, Jesus is not saying that anger is a sin, but he's saying the anger in your heart that would lead you to murder, the hatred, the thought of just, I could kill this person, that alone is sin. Because I mean, go ahead, tell him what you told me before we
Yeah,
started recording.
yeah. So when I found out we were doing this topic today, I actually started talking to different people about it to see if anybody had like a different opinion from mine. And some people did, but some people had like really good examples of like things. And one of the guys said, hate is not really an action. You have to hate somebody in your mind before you hate them, like in an action way. You can hate. I could hate you, for example, and not really do anything against you, just hate you in my heart, and that makes me bitter. But I believe that that's also a sin. But what he said was that the guy that shot Trump, he hated Trump before he shot it. So basically saying you already had these feelings towards somebody that are not righteous, that are not of God, before you actually commit an action against them. And I
Yeah,
really
like
like that.
both things have to dwell.
Yeah, yeah, and I really like that because every time that we talked about this kind of topic, we always go to lust. Everybody's mind goes to you can commit adultery by looking at a woman in a lustful way in your heart, and we go to that kind of side. But Jesus in here, it's saying just by not liking somebody, into a point that you really hate them in your heart, it's almost equal as murdering them. Um, and by saying that, it's showing you that by you dwelling into the thoughts, because sometimes you will see somebody that cuts you off whenever you're driving and you kind of get mad at them and you kind of like don't like that person, but the fact of dwelling into that and actually becoming hateful towards a group of people or just a person in general that you just do not like and you dwell on it so much, I believe that that could also lead to sin. Even if you don't intend to kill them, or even if you don't intend to get them fired from your job, or you don't intend to do any of that, that bitterness within you, it already keeps you away from God. Because the Bible also tells us that if we don't forgive other people, we won't be forgiven. So whenever he says that, he's telling us forgiveness is not something that you just do with actions. Forgiveness is something that is in your heart. So if you can forgive somebody that has done something wrong to you, or if we can forgive to somebody that basically even not didn't do anything bad to you, but you just don't like that person or you hate that person, I believe that that's already keeping you away from God. And the
Yeah.
definition of sin is anything that keeps you away from God.
And funny you mentioned lust because I was going to go there too. Matthew 5:27-28, purely because that is what Michael Todd was
Yeah.
referencing. And I'm sure this is not a new verse, but maybe somebody hasn't seen it before. It says in verse 27, you have heard that it was said to, I say to you, that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. In his heart. My thing with lust lust is a sinful desire of the heart.
Mhm.
Like, and you're not going to commit adultery without lust starting. So, like, the rawest form of sin starting in the heart, I think, is definitely lust. And like you said, people, their brain goes to lust, but yeah, hatred in the heart. That's also another feeling that requires you to dwell upon it before you act on it. Quite frankly, gluttony.
Yeah.
That's another one where you have to dwell on it. Just you don't go get burgers if you're not hungry. You've had to dwell on the fact of eating till you're fat. You know what I mean? There's a lot of these things that are sins that we really have to focus on. Greed. You have to dwell
Yeah.
on greed. You don't just wake up and are that hungry for money. I mean, you have to accumulate it over time. And all of these things are things you have to kill. They're
Mhm.
all things that you have to choose yourself to kill.
Yeah, I agree. But also, I think that all these thoughts and all this dwelling on things, it actually opens doors for sin to come into your life, for demonic activity to come into your life, for all these things to come
Yeah.
into your life. And I had an example that I wanted to share. Actually, it's more of something that I went through that I wanted to share with um, about this. It's actually something I never shared with nobody before. Um, so I gave you my testimony like in that past video, and you guys heard it and all that stuff. Um, the part that I never put in there because I always forget to actually say it is that when my wife was unfaithful, that is that is a sin of being unfaithful to somebody and committing adultery and stuff like that. What I failed to mention most of the time is that me as a married man, I had this lust in my heart for that man's wife, and I forget to mention that. And whenever I'd say that, is I would never actually commit a physical action because I love my wife and I would never try to hurt her. But at the same time, there was that lustful sense every time I saw this person and every time that she was around, and I'd never felt that when I was married until then. And whenever we were talking about this topic, I thought, man, that's kind of something I could share because yes, my wife was unfaithful; she committed adultery. But could it be that the lustful desire in my heart opened doors for something that came into my home?
Wow.
Um, Something that I should have not done because this was a married woman, I was a married man, and even just looking at her into this way, it just now that I am saved and I know Christ, I feel like it was something really, really wrong, which at the time it didn't feel like it.
And you could also see it as to people love to play the blame game. They love to say, oh, her sin was worse than my sin, his sin was worse than my sin. You
Mhm.
actually have to look at it in the perspective of she committed adultery, he had lust in his heart. Both are equally as sinful in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes too we'll justify the lust we have in our minds or the hatred we have with, well, at least I didn't punch him. Oh, at least I didn't commit adultery. Yeah, but you started. You
Mhm.
started dwelling on it. You started the path to sin. Just because you didn't get to the end doesn't mean you didn't start on the road.
Yes.
That's something to be aware of. Um, Romans 8:5. I have that verse written down. And it talks about those of the flesh. It talks about what makes you different if you're of the flesh versus being of the spirit. So I'm going to go ahead and read that verse real quick for you. It says in Romans 8, verse 5. Right, there it is. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, and sin is death. So to be carnally minded is sin. But to be spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be. And I think the fruit of someone's thoughts and their stance of their heart, it shows you if they're living according to the carnal mind or according to the spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're plagued with lustful thoughts, you need to wonder where your heart stance is. Is it with the spirit or with the carnal flesh? I had one thing I wanted to share, something the Lord gave me last night when I was researching on this topic as well. I actually was kind of reminded of Genesis, about just Adam and Eve in the garden. And for
Yes.
those that don't know, in the Bible, a garden actually represents a man's soul and heart. Um, and there's many references in the Old Testament about having to keep the garden so, because it has order. And in the eyes of God, a garden represented purity and righteousness. So a garden is a pretty symbolic thing. And to see that man started righteous without sin in the garden. So in other words, man's heart started perfect with no sin, and it was righteous. But it was the action that sin came in. However, here's the argument point. Was it the action of eating the apple or pomegranate, whatever it was? Was it the action of eating the fruit, or was it the intention of Eve's heart to be like God? That's where we can see from the very beginning, it was the intention of man to do the thing God shouldn't have done. It was the thought that I could be like the Creator that caused sin to come into the garden. So seeing as the garden represents man's heart and soul, intention brought sin into the world, and it brought sin into the hearts of man. It was the thought that I could be like God that drew sin into the hearts of man. And it's like you just said, when those thoughts, they allow the enemy to have a foothold.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the very first thought of going against what God said, the very first thought, allow the enemy to have a foothold over all of mankind.
Yeah.
Pretty
And,
crazy.
and that brings me to I can't remember exactly where it is in the Bible, but because I didn't write it down. But that just makes me think of when Jesus is telling the disciples what's going to happen to him, and Peter's like, "No, don't let any of these things happen to you," and um, and Jesus rebukes that thought. He's not rebuking Peter; he's rebuking the devil who's trying to place a thought in Jesus' mind.
Wow.
And he says, "Get behind me, Satan." Um, because he's trying to to play into the flesh, the human part of Jesus, to put a thought into his mind saying, don't let this happen to you, you're higher than all these things, you should not die for their sins and all these things. And Jesus grabs that thought that he's trying to put into his mind, and he says, I rebuke that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to dwell on that, because this is my purpose here.
Wow. That's really good. I didn't think about that. And when it comes to people like Judas in the Bible, we know that Judas already had the heart stance to betray Jesus before it even happened.
Yeah.
And that's just a further to answer the original question. Sin starts in the heart and mind. It starts in you. Sin starts in you before it comes out of you.
Yes.
And if you're watching this video and maybe you feel like, hey, I've been guilty of this. I've had lustful thoughts. I've had hatred in my heart. I've sinned internally before externally. Y'all, you can always come to Jesus with repentance. You can always say, Lord, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And he'll always, always be merciful and gracious enough to forgive you. So yeah, this has been awesome. What a great talk. I think we answered the question pretty great. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop them below in the comment section. I hope this was a blessing to you. Diego, thank you for joining me once again. I look forward to more collaboration in the future to see what more content we can make. Thank you. You're the best.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. You can have me anytime you need. But also, Love you, brother. Thank you for having me, and I wish you the best. I pray that God just blesses your ministry, blesses just your life, your home, and I love you in faith, and I just pray the best things for you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you, man. And if you'd like to give anything to Diego, you can go donate on our website. Click the other option and just type in Diego, and I will send all the proceeds to him directly. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much for joining us. What a privilege it was to have you, and what an honor. We love you. If you haven't already, sign up for the United Conference coming December 6th through the 8th. It's going to be powerful,
Yep.
powerful speakers, amazing times of impartation. Register. The link is in the description box below. Get a plane ticket, get a hotel. It's here in Spring Hill, Florida. Get here. You do not want to miss it. We love you. Thank you for watching, and God bless you. Bye bye.
Bless y'all.